The room was small, not much bigger than a garage. The walls were covered in acoustic tiles that looked like giant gray egg cartons. It was hot. The Memphis heat seeped through the walls even in the evening. It mixed with the smell of old wood, warm vacuum tubes, and stale cigarette smoke. 3 musicians stood in the room, looking tired. A 4th man sat behind a glass window in a tiny control booth. He was the one in charge. He was the one getting frustrated. His name was Sam Phillips. He owned this place, the Sun Studio. Sam wasn't looking for perfect music, he was looking for something else. Something real. He believed music should sound like a person, not a machine. It should have a soul. It should have mistakes. And right now, the mistake he was hearing was boredom. The kid in the studio was the problem. His name was Elvis. He was young, maybe 19. He had the slicked back hair and the sideburns. He looked like a truck driver, which he had been just a few months ago. He had a good voice. Sam knew that. He'd already cut a couple of songs with him that were causing a stir around town. One was an old blues number they'd sped up. The other was a bluegrass song they'd given a strange new rhythm. People either loved it or hated it. There was no in between. That's how Sam knew he was onto something. But tonight was different. Tonight they were trying to record a ballad, a slow, sad country song. And it was terrible. It was flat, lifeless. The kid's voice, which could be so full of power and emotion, sounded thin and nervous. He was trying too hard. He was trying to sound like the famous singers on the radio, like Dean Martin or Eddie Arnold. He was copying them, and Sam Phillips hated copycats. Sam leaned toward the microphone on his console. Now, let's take it again, Elvis. Through the glass, he saw the kid nod. He saw the other 2 musicians, Scotty Moore on electric guitar and Bill Black on upright bass, shift their weight. They were professionals, they'd play all night if they had to, but even they were starting to look worn down. The music started again, a slow, simple chord progression from Scotty, a steady, plodding beat from Bill's bass. Then the kid started to sing, and it was the same thing. No fire, no feeling. He was just singing the words, he wasn't living them. Sam sighed and, rubbed his eyes. This was the part of the job that killed him, trying to pull a performance out of someone who didn't have it in them. He thought maybe he'd been wrong about this kid. Maybe that first session, with that lightning in a bottle energy, was just a fluke. A happy accident. Maybe the kid was just a one-trick pony. He let the song fall apart on its own. The musicians trailed off, their last notes hanging in the hot, dead air. Silence. Sam's voice crackled through the speaker in the studio. I don't know, boys, it's just not happening. He was close to calling it a night. Send them home. Try again another time. Maybe never. The momentum was gone. The magic, if there ever was any, had vanished. He saw Elvis walk away from the microphone. The kid looked defeated. He ran a hand through his greasy hair. He looked down at his shoes. Sam felt a little bad for him. He was just a kid, after all. Drowning under the pressure. Then something happened. Elvis didn't go sit down. He didn't lean against the wall. He kept his guitar strapped on. He started to fool around, just plucking at the strings, not really playing anything. It was the kind of thing musicians do when they're bored or frustrated, just trying to get their fingers moving. He started to hum a little tune. An old one, a blues song. Scotty and Bill watched him. They didn't know what he was doing. Sam, in the booth, watched him too. He kept his hand off the talkback button. He just watched. The kid started to sing, quietly at first, to himself. He was singing a blues song by an old-timer named Kokomo Arnold. It was a slow, traditional blues, the kind of thing you'd hear in a smoky bar late at night. He sang it with a high, lonesome voice. It sounded authentic. It sounded pretty good, actually. Much better than the country ballad they'd been wrestling with all night. He played through one verse. His body started to move a little. A slight sway. A tap of his foot. He was getting lost in the music, forgetting that he was in a recording studio. Forgetting that he was failing. He finished the verse, and then he stopped. Dead silence again. Sam was about to say something. Maybe, hey, let's try that one for real. It was interesting. It had a mood. But before Sam could speak, Elvis spoke. His voice was different now. Not defeated. Not nervous. It was playful. Cocky, even. He looked over at Scotty and Bill, a little grin on his face. "Hold it, fellas," he said. The words came out fast, slurred together. That don't move me. He stomped his foot on the wooden floor. Once. Hard. Let's get real. Real gone for a change. And then it happened. The thing that made Sam Phillips think the kid had lost his mind. Elvis attacked his guitar. He wasn't strumming it anymore, he was beating on it, creating a frantic, driving rhythm. At the same time, Bill Black, the bass player, started slapping his big upright bass. He wasn't just playing the notes, he was hitting the strings, making them click and pop against the fingerboard. It created a sound like a drum kit. A wild, percussive chaos. Scotty Moore, on the electric guitar, looked stunned for half a second. Then he jumped in, playing a fast, frantic guitar lick that sounded like nothing Sam had ever heard before. It was country picking, but it was sped up, distorted, angry, and then the kid opened his mouth. It wasn't the high, lonesome blues voice from a moment ago. It was a snarl, a shout. He yelled the lyrics, hiccuping and stuttering, full of a manic energy that seemed to come from nowhere. He wasn't singing the song anymore, he was tearing it apart and putting it back together as something new. Something loud. Something dangerous. In the control booth, Sam Phillips froze. His first thought was, what in the hell is he doing? This wasn't music. It was noise. It was a joke. The kid was just blowing off steam. He was making fun of the song. He was making fun of the whole session. He was wasting expensive studio time. Sam's hand shot toward the console to turn off the tape machine, which had been running the whole time. But his hand stopped in midair. He listened. Really listened. Underneath the chaos, there was something else. There was a beat, a powerful, undeniable rhythm. It was the frantic rhythm of the acoustic guitar, the slap of the bass, the driving electric guitar, and that wild, unhinged voice all crashing together. It was a mess. It was raw, it was unprofessional, and it was the most exciting thing he had ever heard in his life. This was it. This was the sound he'd been looking for. This was the sound he didn't even know he was looking for. It wasn't white music. It wasn't black music. It was something else. It was everything all at once. It was blues structure, country speed, and a kind of rebellious energy that didn't have a name yet. It was the sound of a young person who was bored with the old way of doing things and was just making it up as he went along. Sam realized his mouth was hanging open. He looked at the tape machine, the big reels spinning. This recording is capturing this madness, a grin spread across his face. This kid wasn't crazy. He was a genius. The song crashed and burned through the studio. Elvis was jumping around, his leg shaking uncontrollably. Bill Black was grinning like a madman, slapping his bass so hard you'd think it would break. Scotty Moore was hunched over his guitar, his fingers flying, trying to keep up with the musical train wreck that was happening around him. The whole thing lasted maybe 2 minutes. It ended as suddenly as it began, with a final crashing chord and a yelp from Elvis. Then, silence. The only sound was the heavy breathing of the three musicians. They looked at each other, half confused, half elated. They had no idea what they had just done. They were just following the kid. In the control booth, Sam Phillips finally moved. He leaned into the talkback microphone. His voice was calm, but inside his heart was pounding. "Okay, boys," he said. That was good. Don't get too far from the mic. Let's do that one again, and let's get it right this time." He knew they wouldn't get it right. The whole point of what just happened was that it was wrong. It was beautifully, perfectly wrong. But he had to get another take. He had to make sure what he just heard was real. What Sam witnessed that night wasn't just a recording, it was an invention. It was a moment of pure, spontaneous creation. The kid, Elvis, had been hired to be a singer, a voice, someone who could perform a song that was written and arranged by someone else. But in that moment of frustration, he became something more. He became an artist, an arranger, a band leader. He took a piece of musical history, a traditional blues song, and he reimagined it on the spot. He didn't sit down with a pen and paper and write out a new arrangement. He didn't have a conversation with the band about what they should do. He just did it. He felt an emotion, frustration, boredom, a surge of youthful energy, and he translated it directly into sound. The false start was the key. Stopping the slow version and declaring, "That don't move me," was a statement. It was a rejection of the old way. It was a 19-year-old kid telling the world of music that its traditions weren't good enough for him. He needed something more. He needed something that moved. And if it didn't exist, he would create it himself, right there, right then. Sam Phillips understood this instantly. He wasn't just an engineer, he was a catalyst. His genius was in creating an environment where this kind of accident could happen. He didn't yell at Elvis for goofing around. He didn't tell him to stick to the plan. He stayed quiet. He listened. And when the lightning struck, he made sure the tape was rolling. He knew his job wasn't to control the artist, but to capture the moment of inspiration, no matter how chaotic or strange it was. The sound they created was revolutionary because of its components. Bill Black's slap bass technique wasn't new. It had roots in Western swing and bluegrass, but he was doing it with a ferocity, a driving power that turned his instrument into a rhythm section all by itself. Scotty Moore's guitar playing was a blend of country fingerpicking and blues phrasing, but played with a clean, sharp, aggressive tone that cut through the air. And then there was Elvis. His rhythm guitar wasn't subtle. It was raw and percussive. He used it like a drum. His voice was the most shocking element of all. He wasn't just singing. He was using his voice like an instrument, full of hiccups, growls, and sudden leaps in pitch. It was the sound of freedom, the sound of someone breaking the rules because they didn't even know what the rules were. This one event, this one song, became a blueprint for everything that followed at Sun Records. It defined the sound. It was about capturing energy, not perfection. Sam started to encourage this kind of spontaneity. He would often record the rehearsals, the warm-ups, the moments between takes, hoping to find another one of these happy accidents. He knew that the real magic happened when the musicians stopped thinking and started feeling. Other artists who came to Sun, like Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis, all benefited from this philosophy. And Sam wasn't trying to make them sound like Elvis, he was trying to get them to find their own moment of truth, their own version of "that don't move me." He wanted to find the thing that was unique to them and put it on tape. For Carl Perkins, it was his intricate, blues-infused guitar playing. For Johnny Cash, it was his deep, resonant voice and his stories of struggle and redemption. For Jerry Lee Lewis, it was the pure, demonic energy of his piano playing. But it all started in that hot, small room with a kid who was supposed to be singing a sad country song. He got bored, he got frustrated, and for 2 wild, chaotic minutes, he stopped being a singer and became a force of nature. He took a slow, sad blues song and turned it into a declaration of independence. Sam Phillips thought he was crazy for a second, and in a way, he was right. It was a crazy thing to do. It broke all the established rules of how you were supposed to make a record. You were supposed to rehearse. You were supposed to have an arrangement. You were supposed to play the song the same way every time. You were supposed to sound professional. This kid did none of that. He channeled his raw nerve and his eclectic musical taste into a performance that was utterly his own. He was filtering decades of American music blues, gospel, country, bluegrass through his own teenage soul, and spitting it out as something new. It's easy to look back now and see it as inevitable, but in that room, on that night, it was anything but. It was a risk, a leap into the unknown. For Sam Phillips, sitting in the booth, it must have sounded like the future. A loud, messy, and exhilarating future. He didn't just hear a new song. He heard a new way of being. He heard a cultural shift happening right there on his recording tape. The world was about to change. Popular music was about to be turned upside down, and it started not with a carefully crafted plan, but with a moment of pure, unfiltered impulse. It started when a bored kid decided to stop playing the song he was told to play, and instead play the music he was feeling inside. The name of that song, the one they captured on tape that night, the one that started with a slow blues crawl and then exploded into a frantic rockabilly masterpiece, was Milk Cow Blues Boogie.